Okay, good morning. So last session we learned about how do we work with events, right? How do we deal with the events? So I given the overview of how JavaScript events will work here and what are the changes. Changes are nothing but the way of how do we write event, the way of how we pass argument, that only change. Rest of options are same. The way of writing event and the arguments that we pass are different. Now, one more important here, additionally, you have to learn how to use custom events. Custom events means you can configure events. You can configure events for your components. You can configure events for your components in order to handle specific functionality. That is what custom event is. Custom event means you can create your own events. Now the question is, why should we create our own events? What is the necessity? Why we have to create our own events? Why we have to use our own events? So we can configure events for our components. Why we need events, I will tell you. Actually, when you are working with some projects and options here, generally here we have, suppose we have some products list is there. So we are designing a products list and displaying some products in a component. Now this products needs some options like filter, options like sorting, options like pagination. Like this, we need to add some facilities to that list. Then what we do is we design these components separately. That means we create a filter component and we will add into the list wherever we need it. So what is advantage is this filter is not only for products. Suppose later you are using employees, students, some other, everywhere you can use this filter. So you don't need to design separate filters for different data. For all data, filter is same. But the filter types will be changing. That means, for example, when the filter is used in products list, it can filter the products by price, by name, by category. It can filter. When it is used in employees, it can filter by employee designation, employee salary, like that. So we need to design a component universally so that we can use anywhere. And when you design such components, now what is the challenging here is, filter is one component. You are using this in another component. Now what is the challenging option here is, how we transport data from one component to another. That means now products list have to send details to filter. Filter have to filter the products list. That means actually this products list is a parent component and the filter is a child component. Now we need to transport data from parent to child. Similarly, child to parent. And that is not easy. I hope you learnt in general JavaScript function closures. You might have learnt about function closure. What is a function closure? What is a function closure in JavaScript? Function promises, function closures, these are JavaScript technical things. Function closure is a technique where you can write a function inside another function. You can define a function inside another function. What is challenge in that is the values you defined in outer function are accessible to inner, but inner are not accessible to outer. Now making the outer function in such a way that it can access the values of inner function is closure. Suppose you are learning Java, .NET like things. You have an outer class, inner class. You might have learnt. And you might have learnt how members of outer class are accessible in inner. How inner class members are accessible to outer. That is the same thing here. So here, what is the main concept is how you transport data from parent to child, child to parent. For that, we need to create our own events. By using our own events, we can do it. So here, 3 steps are there. Custom events. That means you have to define custom events to define any custom functionality. Functionality for your component. You have to define custom events to define any custom functionality to your component. Now what is the challenge here is, so to handle custom events, you have to know few things. How to transport data from parent component to child, and how to transport data from child to parent. These 2 things you have to learn. If you know how to transport data from parent to child and child to parent, then you will understand custom events. Let's see one simple example for this. We will see one example how to handle. So what is our target is, see, we will design like this. We will design a parent component. In that we will design a child component. In that we will create a child component. Child component we will create. Now what we have to do, from parent component we must able to send data to child. That means we need to pass data from parent to child. And we need to transport data from child to parent. That is our task. How to do this we will see. In almost all Angular interviews you will find such questions like how data is transported from one component to another. Parent to child, child to parent, because this is complex thing to handle. Now we will see this process, how it happens. In this process you will learn how to create your own events. you will understand how do we design our own events. Now the question is, where we use this in real time? Where we use this in real time. For example, in real time environment, you opened a website. That website have a navigation bar at the top. In the navigation bar, they have given right side your profile option, sign in option will be given. You haven't yet signed in. You haven't signed in. Now what happened? They given a login screen here. Am I right? In login screen, you entered your user ID and your password and you successfully logged in. Once you successfully logged in, this user ID must be shown here. Understood? That means now you need to transport data from login to parent, because toolbar is present in the parent and you are logging in child. Login operation is done in child and the login result will be in parent. If you successfully logged in, then your profile photo will come at the top. Your ID will come at the top. That means now here what we have to do, we need to transport data from child to parent. These are general requirements, in real time requirements. When you open a website, it will show empty, right side says sign in. And for sign in, you will get a component. In that component, you will sign in. Once sign in is successful, that information will be carried to the parent. That's what it can do. This is the real-time requirement. And how we do? By using our data transporting techniques. Let's see how to do this. For that, I will create two components. Let's create two components. In the components folder, ng generate component parent. Parent is one component. Okay. And another component, ng generate component child. Skip this. This is another component. So we are creating a parent component and child component, and we will start with parent. App parent. We will start with the parent component. And here I will keep in the startup parent. Okay. Let's run this localhost. Parent is working fine. Let's design parent component. I will design the parent component like this. So div class as container fluid, yeah, padding 2 and bg dark, okay. And in this we will put a heading parent component, and I will just keep a style height as some 500 pixel and the text white. Okay. Actually, this is parent component we are having. We have a parent component. Now let's create child component. And I am creating a div and class, so container fluid, and here we have margin 2, padding 2, and bg light and text dark, and style height as some 300 pixel. Okay. Here I will keep as child component. Okay. But currently we are accessing parent component. Inside parent component, we want child component. So we want to access a component inside another. That's a very simple thing already we done in first session. We designed a Netflix screen where we learned how to access a component inside another. How to access child component in parent. In parent, so below this heading, we will access app what the child. It's selected. Now the child component is inside parent. So we have the parent component and the child. Now we want to transport some data from parent to child. You can directly transport or you can transport on any event. Event means button click or something. So in the parent component, I will keep a button here. So class btn bt. And here I will give send message to child. We have a button send message to child. When I click this button, a message must be sent from parent to child. So we need to send data from parent to child. So here the first concept is how to transport data from parent to child. This is the first thing we are learning. For that first important, in order to transport data from parent to child. So what important is child component must have a property that stores the value coming from parent. That means from parent component you are sending some value. That means child component should have some property to store that value. You are transporting data from parent to child means in child there must be somebody who should store that value. That means child components needs a property which can collect the data coming from parent and store it. So let's go to the child component TS file. In the child component TS file, I will create a property called message from parent. It is string type. You can send any type of data. String, array, object, boolean, number, any type, primitive type or non-primitive. First I am sending some string. So I created a property called message from parent. What is the purpose of this property? To collect the data coming from parent. But remember, any property that you designed in a component is not accessible to other components. Observe carefully. Now, in parent component, we are using app child component. App child have a property. How to use property binding? We have to use square brace for property binding. In this square brace, which property you created? You created your own property. What is that property? Message from parent. Now this app child is saying that I don't have any property by this name. You cannot bind anything because I don't have that property, but you have it. Child component is having this property, but it is saying that I don't have this property, because here the point is, so child component must have a property. That is the first thing. And important is any property defined in child is not accessible to parent. you have to mark it by using the directive. You have to mark it by using the directive input. You have to mark it by using the directive input. Actually, input is the member of Angular core library. So what you have to do, you have to import input from Angular core. From Angular core library, you have to import. After importing, you have to use this input before your property message from parent. Like this we have to do. It is what type? String type. It can be empty like this. This is how we need to define. Now this is missing currently. That is the reason you are unable to access this property in parent. So any property that you designed in child is not accessible to parent until or unless it is marked with input. So let's do this and see now. I will delete it. So I will go to child component. Here we have to import. Already Angular core is there. We have to import input, and we have to mark this at the net what input. That is the marker. Now go to parent component. Now try in the square brace. You will find message from parent is there. In the IntelliSense itself it is showing. In the IntelliSense itself it is showing. That means you can see message from parent is there. It is expecting some string. We have to pass the string. I will pass a string. I am passing a string. Passing a string is nothing but I will give here waiting for message. Am I right? I am passing this string waiting for message. This must be displayed. This must be displayed in the child component. Where to display? I want to display in the child component. What I will do? In the child component, here I will put a paragraph and here I will display message from parent. Now you can see it is showing waiting for message. So the message is transported from the parent to child. Directly transported. But I want to transport some more data when user clicks the button. That means on this button click, I want to send some message. Then what I will do is, for that, I will go to parent component. In parent component HTML. So in TS file, first I will create a property called message to child. It is a string type, and this message to child is having a message called waiting for message. That is one we are having. And when user clicks the button, that means I will write a method called send click. Am I right? On send click, what I will do is this dot message to child. I will put a message hello from parent. On button click, I will change the message. Now, send click should fire up when user clicks the button. So on this button, we have to write a click. What is it? Send click. That is done. Now you see here, I don't want a standard message. Here you have to give here message to child. Message to child is having, you see, waiting for message. I click on this button in the parent, it will send some message to child. It says hello from parent. So we are transporting some value from the parent component to the child. Remember, this is the value defined in parent that we are transporting to child. And for that, you have to follow this technique. First, in order to transport any value from parent to child, in the child, there must be some property which can accept that value. After defining that property, you send value to that property from parent. You can send any type. For example, see, in the child component, I am creating another property at the net input, and public, this is product details. It is an any type and it is an empty object. So it is what type? Object type. Object type. So what I am doing here now, see, go to the parent component HTML. Here, this child component is having another property called product. We have a product details property. Product details is what type? Object type. You can directly send an object like this, or you can create an object and send it on button click, your wish. Suppose if you want to send on button click, see what I am doing. I will create here public. So I will say object to child. Am I right? It is what type? Any type, and it is an object. It is an object. So actually it is an empty object. On button click, what should happen? This dot object to child, it should have details like name. Write some name. It should have detail like price. So some price like this we need. Now I need to send this object. So here we are sending, what is it? Object to child. Now in the child component, we have to display. I will create a simple data list. So DL in the data term name. Name, and name is displayed. Where it is displayed, product details dot name, because into product details we are sending. And we have another data term, that is price. Data definition here, product details dot price. Now in the child component, product details is empty, nothing it is having. Now what we are doing here is, when user clicks send message to child, then it will send both details. It will send hello, and it will send this object also. You can send any kind of data from the parent to child. So only two basic points you have to remember. We need to keep a property that can collect the data from the parent and store and display. And every property you declared in child is not accessible in parent. We have to mark it as input. You have to mark it as input, then only it is available. Now similarly, we have to send data from child to parent. This is complicated. Parent to child is always easy. Why? Because you know, from a higher order function, you can access data easily in inner functions. But the values from inner function, we have to send to outer function. We need extra effort. So that means easily parent value can come into child, but child value cannot easily go into parent. For that, what you have to do is, what actually we have to do here is, in the child component, we need to create, in the child component actually we have to create, we generally call as, we need to create a trigger. What this trigger will do is, this trigger is going to fire. This trigger is going to fire the data and push this to parent. That means it's not easy to push the data from child to parent. You need a trigger. The trigger fires the data to the parent, and parent will catch it, and parent will use it. You don't need to fire up any data into child. You just drop some data that child will catch it, but child cannot send it, right? You have to fire. This is where how to create a trigger. Creating a trigger is nothing but creating a custom event. Firing data is nothing but the concept of firing data is it is emit value. These two are the basic things. So we create an event that emits the value. So event is the trigger and emitting is firing the value. So you need an event emitter. You need an event emitter which can push the value from child to parent so that parent can catch and use it. This is complex. So let's see how it can be done. That is the reason in almost 100 to 100% in almost every Angular experience interview, this is compulsory asked, mandatory, because even you have learnt, you are still confused about using it and answering it in interviews when the questions are asked in a twisted way. Even you have learnt. That means interviewer knows that you have learnt and prepared and came to interview with this topic, because it is very important in every Angular interview. He knows that you prepared and came, but still he will ask on the same topic. That means he is confident enough that he can twist the questions in such a way that you will get confused. Right? You will get confused. Even you know the answer, you can't answer properly. That is the reason thoroughly you need to understand the concept. Every phase you need to understand. Sometimes in interviews they don't tell in this way. They simply ask what is purpose of input directive. They will ask what is purpose of input directive. What is purpose of input directive? The purpose of input directive is to accept data from parent, to configure a property that can accept data from parent. That is input directive, right? So the questions may be in different way, but concept is the same, right? So here, let's see how to fire up the data from child to parent. So as I told you, in order to fire up the data from child to parent, so you need a custom event. So this is the challenging one. So this is here. Now this I will continue. What we have done, we defined a member ready to accept the data. Now what we have to do, pass data from parent to child property. How do we pass data from parent to child property? We have app child. In the app child, you have to define message from parent, and here we have to send some string. I will just put a message, say hello from parent. That example I will give you, but this is syntactically how we need to do, right? That means now app child have a property. That property is expecting a string and we are passing some string. Now what you have to do in child component HTML, display the value. Am I right? In child component, what we have to do, put some paragraph, and here we will say message from what? Parent. Whatever message is sent from the parent, it will be displayed here. We are displaying that value here, right? That's how we are managing. This is the first level, how data is transported from the parent to child. Okay, now next level, how to transport data from child to parent. From child to parent. This is the second stage. This is the first stage. how to transport data from parent to child. This is the process actually, and how to transport data from child to parent. Now here, first important, the steps I will give here. First important, you have to create a custom event that can emit value from child component to parent. You have to create a custom event, and very important, custom event is defined. Custom event is defined by using event emitter. That means every event in Angular is made up of event emitter class. Click, on change, on blur, on focus, key up. All these events are derived from a class called event emitter. So whatever events you are using in Angular are derived from event emitter. If you know this basic, if you create any event of this event emitter type, it is a event, custom event. That means you are creating something which is of type event emitter. Means what? You are creating a member which is of type event emitter. Means what? It is an event. Anything you create which is of type event emitter, that means it is an event. So how do we define custom event? We have to write like this: public. We have to say event name, and it should be of type event emitter. And event emitter is a generic type. Generic type, why? Because it can emit any type of value. It can be string, it can be number, it can be boolean, it can be object. If you tell object, it will work for only object. If you tell string, it will work for only string. That is why it is an generic type. Okay. Now you created an event, but whatever the value emitted by this event, that must be stored in memory. That means every event needs memory. Every event that you create needs some memory. That event related all activities are managed in that memory. How to allocate memory? How to allocate memory? You know, in JavaScript you use new. What is this new? New is dynamic memory allocating operator. It is memory allocating operator. New is an operator. It is an operator. Dynamic memory allocating operator. Why you use the word new in your programming? What new means? In Java, in .NET, you use new. That new is memory allocation operator. It allocates memory dynamically. And what type of memory it should allocate? Event emitter type memory it should allocate. For what string, what number, boolean, it should allocate the memory. It should allocate the memory for that, right? That means new is allocating memory. Why you are allocating memory? Because event needs memory. Event needs memory. And very important, so every event you created is not accessible to parent. Every event you created is not accessible to parent. Same like every property you created is not accessible to parent. Every event you created not accessible to parent. Then you have to mark your custom events with output directive. Why you are marking property with input directive? Because it is to read value. to read the value and store the value. Input. Why you are marking this with output? Because it is not reading value, it is pushing the value, sending value. That means events emitting the value and the properties reading the value. Right? That means you have to mark it with event like this now. That means you have to define at the net, output, and we have public, event name. So it is of what type? Event emitter type, and it will allocate the memory new event emitter of generic type. Like this you need to configure. That is the way how to configure. Now another point is, it's not done. You created an event. What it should do? It should emit some value outside. How it emits a value? So to emit any value, you need a trigger. To emit any value, you need a trigger. Trigger is nothing but, trigger is a default event. Trigger is a default event. That means you use any default event. That means when to push the value. You have to tell when to push the value, when to send the value. By default, it will not send the value. You have to tell when to send. Event means it specifies what functionality and when to perform. What functionality? Update some data. When on clicked, on change, on load, on blur, on focus. You have to tell when to do. So every event requires a trigger. Trigger is nothing but default event. So what we do, we will write like this: public on button click. Suppose we write on button click. What it should do? On button click, we have to access this dot event name. Event name is our custom event. It should emit. There is a method called emit. It should emit whatever value. You have to define in this way. This is called trigger. This trigger is important because this trigger tells when to send the data. So custom event will emit this value. When this value is emitted, it is in the memory. In the memory where it is stored. So the emitted value is stored under the reference of, you remembered I told you object related properties are stored in object related properties, event related properties, both are stored in $event. Am I right? Event related properties, where they are stored? $event is the reference. That means the emitted value is stored in the reference of $event. That means whatever value you emitted, it is now present here. Now tell me, what is the type of this $event? Previously in general events, its type is object. But now it depends on what is your event type. Understood? If your event is emitting string, understood? If it is emitting string, then $event is a string. If it is emitting object, then this is an object. So whatever the value you emit, it is stored inside this $event. You have to access through that event. Let's see the process now. Let's go to child component. In the child component, we have to import two other things. One is output, another one event emitter. We have to import these two things. Now we need to create our own event. What is that? We have to mark as output, public, our event name. Our event name is nothing but child component, or say child clicked. Understood? Any name you can give. Child clicked is a child click. That is the event. How to tell that it is event? It should be of what type? Event emitter. What it should emit? It should emit a string. Then we have to allocate memory. New event emitter of what type? String type memory. We have to allocate like this. This is your custom event. Child click is an event. Now when it should emit value, that also you have to tell. When it should emit value, I will write a logic here. Public on button click. Understood? On button click, it have to emit the value. How? This dot child click dot emit. What value it should emit? A string. String is nothing but hello from child. This message will be emitted. Now what is, when this should fire up? This should fire up when you click the button. Where you click the button? In child. In child component, we will put a button. Understood? In child component, we will put a button. Just like put a button. Class as btn dark. And we will see message to parent. On this button click. So that means we have to use click. On this click. On button click. This function. That means when you click the button, this method will fire up. That method will fire up your custom event. That custom event will emit a value. Emit a value. Okay. Now, what is your custom event name? Custom event name is what? Child click. What it is emitting? Hello from child. Let's go to parent design. In the parent here, in the parent, app child is having two properties. One property is parent, message from parent, another property product details. It is having an event also. Events are binded in parenthesis now. You see, now we have child click event. This is our own event. Usually event means click. It is change, like blur, like key up. But child click is our own event. Now this event needs a method now. That means we will put here as get message from child, right? Get message from child. And remember, this event is emitting some value, right? That emitted value will be passed into this method by using what? $event. This $event is what type currently? String type. It is a string type, right? Now what we have to do? We have to write this method and collect the value in parent. That means let's go to parent. Here we will write a message. What is that? Public get message from child. And E is what type? String type. And we need to display locally. We need to store this locally. That means here locally I will create another one. Public message from child. Understood? Message to child, message from child is empty. On the button click, we have to collect that this dot message from child is equal to E. Only E, because E is string now. Right? Directly that message will be stored here. Now this message I want to display in parent. In parent, where I want to display just below this heading, I will put a paragraph. Here I will say message from child. Message from child. Now you see here, I click here, send message to child. That means it will send message to the child. From parent, message is coming to child. I click here, message to parent. Then it will send message to parent, hello from child. That means we are triggering a value outside this and sending this. This is very complicated. Right? I know that out of 199 of you haven't understood this. Am I right? No? Understood? Huh? Understood? Seriously understood? Then it's very great. You are very good. But no problem, I will explain one more time. Right? Because this is very complex. Right? If you understood in the first attempt, that's very, very good. Very good. Right? Because you are concentrating on the flow very well. But it's okay, because even experienced people ask this twice, thrice to explain. They will say that, sir, one more time I want to see this. Because this is very complex thing to transport. That is why even you learn 2-3 times also, until or unless you practice, you can't answer the questions. That's the reason you need to thoroughly understand this. One more time I will show you. But this time we will do one more example, different, so that you can get more clarity on this. In real time, how do you implement this? In real world scenario, how do we implement this? One small concept I will show you here. So see here, what is the main concept here? Transporting data from parent to child, child to parent. To send data from child to parent, you need an event emitter. You need to create custom events. Those custom events can send data to the child. Without using custom events, you can send data to the parent to child. Right? Now this we will implement in one example. First I will give you this example. I will give you this example for practice, and one more example I will explain here. See, we have parent dot, first we will design child. Child dot component dot ts. Let me copy the logic here. Okay, and child dot component dot html. Let's copy this here. Another one, parent dot component dot ts. So this is parent component. Yeah. Parent dot component dot html. This is parent component HTML. That's how we do. So this is one example. Let's take one real-time example. Like real-time example, let's see here. Suppose we will design a screen. In this screen, we will display products list. And what we will do, we will this is 2 areas we are having. In this products list, what we will do, we will display all the products in a card style. We will display all products in a card style like this, suppose. Means whatever products are there, we will display them in a card style. We are designing like this. Now, next step, what we have to do is left side, we need to add a filter. Filter that you can select products based on category. Based on category, you can select the product. So here I will put a filter. We will separately design a filter. In the filter, we will have electronics. So we will have footwear or something, whatever you have, like some fashion. Like this, we will have some filter. Now this filter is a separate component actually. This is a separate component. Now what we have to do is, we have to bring this component and put it in the parent. Understood? We have to put that in this location. Here we need to put it. Why you designed this as a separate component? Because I can use this anywhere where products are filtered. So that I don't need to design on every page. Usually you see this in every website. Suppose you see Flipkart like shopping. So Amazon like shopping. You open Amazon shopping, suppose mobiles. And you see left side, you see filter is there. And very important, you are searching for various categories. That filter is same. That means you are searching for different categories. Now you can see that the filter will be there. but the filter will be little bit changing according to which category you selected. Understood? Filter will be there, but the value inside the filter will be changing. You say TVs filter will come. You say mobiles filter will come. You say fashion filter will come. But filter is same. But the values in the filter will be changing. Then how you will design a component in such a way that component is only one, but it is changing its behavior according to data. That means when you loaded mobiles data will be sent to filter. Right? That means only one component should work for all. You cannot design one filter for mobiles, one filter for TVs, one filter for fashion. You have to design only one filter which should work for all. That is the key concept here. Now how we do this, that is what the intention is now, right? Now what we have to do here, we need to design this filter and put it here. What is, now which one is parent, which one is child? Products list is parent and filter is child. Now how many electronics products are there where that information is present? How many electronics are present? How many electronic products are present where that information is present? That information is present in products list that I have to send here. I have to tell the filter that I have 5 electronics, 6 electronics. That count I need to send there. We need to send that count here. That is one point. Another point is when user, that means you are transporting data from parent to child. When user clicks electronics, only electronics will come here. Understood? That means we need to send the name of that category to the parent so that parent will filter and show only them. Understood? So this is child to parent. Child to parent we are sending category name and parent will collect the category name and filter only the products that belong to category. That is where in real time environment this concept is used. So this is parent and this is child. Transporting data from parent to child, child to parent. Let's design this. So let's create, close all this. Let's create 2 components. I will create 2 components. ng generate component, that is products. Products is the component. Skip test. Okay. And I will create another component, ng generate components filter. Filter is another component. Skip test. Okay. We have 2 components created. One is products, another one filter. Okay, done. Let's close this. Now let's go to the products. We will keep the products design here. So div class container fluid, yeah. And we have a row. We have a nav bar. This will have the class as call3. And we have a main. And this will have the class call9. We'll do this here. That's what we are doing. Okay. Now in this 9 column, I want to display all products. I want to display the products data. In the 3 column, I want to display filter. So what we will do here is we will go to the product component and we learned how to fetch data from API public. We will display here what products. Products is an any type array. Okay. And the products is an any type array. Okay. We will create here public load products. That is one option I'm giving. And what it have to do. So fetch from http://fakestore.api.com/what products dot then response response dot JSON and dot then data. We will assign this data to the products. This dot products is equal to whatever data is there. But very important is I will keep this products. I will keep these products with all the products data coming in. Okay, keep it like this. And I want to display all the products here. I want to display all the products here. But this will be changing. It is not all products every time. When user selects electronic products, it says footwear products. So this URL should be changing. If this URL should be changing, I will declare a URL of what type string. I will use that URL here. And on initialization, what we will do? So this dot load products, it will use the URL http fakestoreapi.com/what products. This already we done in our previous example. So here we will present the products. I will create a div class dflex. We have a flex wrap and we have style height. So as 500 pixels and we keep here as overflow auto. Okay. And below this we will design a card. Class as card. So padding 2, margin 2, style width of the card is some 200 pixel, fine. And in this card we will just put an image and this card should repeat. So ng for let item of what products and image have src coming from item dot image. So height I will give as 150 pixel 150 and class as card image top. And we will just put a card footer and in the card footer we will put a paragraph. Here we will define item dot title. That's done. All the products information will come here. Look, we need to keep it in startup now. Which component should be in startup? Products. I will change the parent to what? Products. And we will put in index products component will be in startup. We have products component in the startup. Okay. Now you can see localhost products is coming here. All products information it is displaying here. All the products information is here. All the products are here. And left side, I want a filter for this. That means we will design the filter component now. Let's go. We design the filter component here. Design, only design I am giving, div. In that I will create an button. I will create a div. This div will have a class called btn group. So we have a btn group vertical, yeah. btn group vertical and we will keep a button. So, and this is having, yeah, class btn danger like this. I am giving here some electronics like this. So electronics, so some categories here. This is jewelry and this is men's clothing. What categories they are having I am giving, and women's clothing like this. Clothing like this, and we will put W100 everywhere. And that is the width, okay. And we will keep here margin bottom of group is enough. I will keep here square brace. For every category, I am just adding the square brace where we will decide to display something. Okay, this is filter. So button group vertical we are giving BTN group vertical. Okay. And let's go to the products component. In the navigation bar, we want that filter. That means in the navigation area, we want the filter. Here we have to use app. We need to access that filter here, and that will come here. That is the filter component we are having. Actually, I just given as ordinary buttons, okay? Because you go to filter component, better you can make this as BTN link. It looks better. BTN link. It looks better. So BTN link. That means it looks like a hyperlink, huh? But actually it is a button only. It looks like a link. You can create a drop down. You can design anything. So here we have BTN group like this. BTN group vertically. Button group already vertically is there now. Will not give any button group. That's fine. Okay, this is enough. Now what I need here is, see, whatever electronic products are there, these electronic products count we need to send from here and put it there. Understood? That means right side, how many electronics are there? You have to count. And you need to send that to child. Now how many details we need to send to child? 4 details. Electronics count, jewelry count, men's clothing count, women's clothing count. That means how many properties child component needs? 4. How to create? Let's go to filter component. In the filter component, we are expecting 4 properties. What are those? Public. One is electronics count. It is what type? Number. Initially 0. And it is marked with what? Input. Understood? Why it is marked with input? Because it should accept value from parent. The same we will copy here. And the next one is jewelry count. Jewelry count. The next one is, suppose I just given men's count. I just given as women's count. Right. These are the values. And I want to display them in these braces here. Here we want to display, what is it? Electronics count. Here we want to display what? Jewelry count. And here we need to display men's count. And here we need to display women's count. So women's count. And you can see all are currently 0. We need to pass the data from parent to child. That means let's go. In the parent component, here important is, let's go to the parent. Here into this, we need to send, you see, electronics count. Here we have another property, jewelry count. We have another property, men's count. We have another property, that is women's count. It is expecting a number we have to pass. Now the question is, how you will get that count here? How you will get the count here? That means I am creating here public electronics count. Okay. It is what type? Number type. It is what? 0. Same I will declare here also. Huh? So electronics count, jewelry count. So men's count, and women's count. Now the question is, when you initialize, on initialization, after loading the products, that means all products are loaded and they are stored in this products array. I want to get how many electronic products are present. In an array, how do you search for any condition based value and return them? JavaScript array. In JavaScript array, how you will search for a value? Array have three methods. Array index of, array find, array filter. If you have learned JavaScript arrays have find and filter methods. Find method is going to return the value which is matching your condition, only first value. But filter method will return all the values that are matching the condition. That means in JavaScript you have array methods. Those array methods are used for filtering the data. If you have learned JavaScript, in JavaScript actually, suppose we have var data. In this data we have some name as TV. This category, its category is electronics. Right? I have another name. So this is some Nike casuals. And its category is some footwear. Another we have name. So this is mobile. And its category is electronics. Now I want only electronics to display. I want only electronic products from that array. How you do in JavaScript? Data.filter. You have a filter. Filter uses a callback function. In that callback function, you will access every product from that array. And what you do, you will access every product from that array. And what you do, you will return the product whose category is matching with what? Electronics. Now this electronics contains only electronic products. That is how you do filters in JavaScript. Now if I print document.write, what to print? Electronics. If I am printing electronics, then you can see this contains only electronic products information. That is electronics dot what? Name. And you can see only electronic products names will come. Where is it? Electronics is object, na? What is the object? It is again an array, right? Collection, na? Means again it is a collection. So what you have to do for var item of what? Electronics. Document.write. You have to print item dot name. That means only electronics details will come here. So this is electronics will come. TV and mobile. That is how generally you do filter in JavaScript. Right? JavaScript uses which method for filtering? This. I don't want all electronic products. I want that count how many are there. Now can you tell me logic? How many are there? I can get its length, na? It is again array, na? If I get electronics.length, then it will get how many items are there. That is what filtering in JavaScript is. That you have to use here. That means this dot electronics count is equal to this dot products. On that we have to use filter. Filter will read every product and it will return the product whose category is matching with what? Electronics. But very important is this is expecting a number, na? It is expecting a number. That means what we have to do is we have to get dot length. It will return the length which is a number. Understood? That means it will filter all the products whose category is electronics. Whose category is electronics and it gets the length. Electronics length. That means count of those electronics and it will store in electronics count. This electronics count must be sent into this. Am I right? Electronics count is equal to electronics count. Others temporarily I will delete here. Others temporarily I am deleting here. Okay. Only electronics count currently I am sending. You can see here the electronics count here. You see here it is 0. Why it is 0? Because you are trying to do this. You are trying to do this outside. Outside means what? You see the filter here. We are getting this electronics count for the products. Outside means initialization. Actually that happened only in this method. Products details came in this method. So what you have to do is this line you have to write inside this then. Understood? Inside the then you have to do it. That means now what happens is inside the then you see here that count is not updated. Why? Because you should not do directly the on products. You have to do that on which location? You have to do that filter on data. Understood? You have to filter on data because data is what? Data is an array. On the data, you need to apply this filter. You need to apply this filter and we need to get that. So now you can see here, it is saying does not exist. Why? Because actually this is a method. In a method, you cannot write any shorthand techniques. Lambda expressions you can't write. Then do you know how to write? You have to write like this. What you have to do? Electronics count. How to get this dot? Not this. What is it? Directly data. Data dot. We have to use filter. We have to write a callback function. This callback function will accept every product, and the product is what type? So we have to define product type as any. And what we have to do? We need to return the product whose category is matching with what? Electronics. After that we need to return dot what? Length. This is the approach we need to follow. That means it will get the electronics count. It will display the electronics count here. And here capitalizations, everything matters because electronics is in lowercase. I will get that electronics in lowercase. It will get 6. It will display. That means we are transporting data from parent to child. That is the approach you have to follow. Where I applied the filter? I applied the filter here. Now I will remove this filter from here. Understood? I removed that filter from here. So what we are doing, I am writing that here again. So how do we write? This dot products. Products dot what? Filter. What is it? We have to read every product. And what we have to do? We have to return the product whose category, understood? Category is matching with what? Electronics. And we need to apply dot what? Length. Apply to which location? This dot electronics count is equal to this. I am applying that here and displaying, and you can see here it is not working. So why it is not working? The products data is loaded only in the promise where you have used fetch. There only you have to apply the filters. Otherwise you have to write a separate fetch method here to get only electronics products and send them. We don't want to write any fetch method. Then what you do? Don't write here. Everything you have to write in which location? You have to write in this location. We need to configure that in location. Similarly, I hope you can do others. What is it? Another one is jewelry count. How to get it? Data.filter. It uses a callback function. What we have to do? Product of what type? Any type. And what we have to return? Return product dot what? Category is equal to what? Jewelry. Jewelry, right? This is how we need to define. And we need to return the length. Na? Yes, this jewelry length we need to display here. Where to display the jewelry count? Here we need to add one more property. What is it? Jewelry count is equal to Jewelry count. We need to access that and display jewelry count. Okay. Now you can see jewelry count is also updated. That means how many electronics are there? 6. How many jewelry are there? 4. So we are transporting the data from the parent to child. Same you have to use for others. That means same implementation you have to do. So same logic you have to write. There are so many techniques. This is one technique. Another technique, the another option is men's count. And here we have to search for what? Men's clothing, like this. And we have another one. This is women's count, and this is what? So women's clothing. That's how we need to do. We have to apply all of them here. Jewelry count, men's count comes from men's count. Okay, and women's count comes from women's count. It will get all the details and display here. How many electronics, how many jewelry, how many men's clothing, how many women's clothing, that comes from here and show. So we are transporting data from child to parent to child. Now when user clicks jewelry, only jewelry products must come. Understood? That means now we need to transport the data from child to parent. That means now we need to design a custom event. That custom event should pass the data to this, and it will filter only that. Right? That we will see in next session. Tomorrow we will do that. Then you can understand the complete process. Right? 2 examples I showed you. One syntactically, another how you implement in real time. If you can finish this, that means you have parent to child and child to parent, right? This we will do in our next session. Tomorrow we will finish this, right? And then tomorrow we can discuss about forms, validations, how they are designed, how to create forms, how to give validation for forms, which are very important in web design. That we will see in next session. Tomorrow we'll see that, okay? Right.